This is iRacing.
After a scruffy and dramatic race at Magny-Cours saw Jacob Reed snatch a victory from Nick Bakanos in the GTPs, and a dramatic final lap scuffle in the GTOs saw Joni Hagner take the win, the drivers roll into Charlotte hoping for a calmer affair. Who will survive the massive speed differences around the Roval, and who will be longing for the wider berth of Daytona next week? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 8 of the iRacing IMSA Vintage Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Adam Lindgren, and with me in the booth is Craig King. Our director is Christian Deploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. The Charlotte Roval has made an impact on American auto racing since its debut in 2018. To find out what makes this place so unique, let's take you down to our GSRC track log.
Welcome to Charlotte Motor Speedway. Until a few years ago, most race fans probably didn't know that this track had a road course layout. Thanks to a huge revamp to prepare for NASCAR to race on it, the Roval is now a top-tier facility. Situated in the northeast corner of Charlotte, North Carolina, there's a whopping 6 different road course layouts. They range from just under a mile to a little over 2 miles in length. Like most Rovals, the high-speed banking on the oval portion makes up the majority of the lap length. However, one unique feature that isn't often seen on other Rovals is that this track includes a decent amount of elevation change. Passing is often difficult, and the 2 chicanes on the oval portion are notorious for their unforgiving curbing. Lesser-powered cars find overtakes a bit easier with the slipstream on the banking, but anything with some oomph is going to have to work very hard to get by their rivals. If anything, attrition often rears its ugly head, and simply keeping the car pointed forward and clean will net you a good finish. While the debate rages on among gearheads on whether oval cars should race here, one thing is for sure, it provides some wild action and almost never disappoints the fans in the stands.
Well, there we saw many different vehicles around the Roval, but Craig, this has been a long storied track with Charlotte and iRacing, but how are the IMSA Vintage cars going to handle it today?
It's going to be very tough for these in the vintage cars. We've only ever had one real life multi-class race here, and that was during the pandemic, and that was IMSA itself. So the speed differences are kind of the same, but it's very tricky here. You turn into turn 1. That's probably the easiest place to make an overtake with how wide it is, the entry, and then it tightens up. The whole infield section here at this oval, so 2 down to 7, it goes flat and then it goes up and down the hill because they've got to get over the tunnels that get the vehicles in. So the elevation changes will be a problem for the GTOs, and really the GTOs kind of feel like a stock car around here, but they're going to be the ones that don't really enjoy this. You've got the banking. The banking's always going to be a problem, but thankfully this is not the modern day Roval because they've now had a new iteration. This is the last variant of this, which means we don't have the fast chicane. Slow chicanes in theory should be good, hard braking for the GTPs, but also I think we may get a few sends. The Turtles are going to be out to kill somebody today.
And one driver who's out to capture a championship is Jacob Reed. He's won every race on the trot except for one where he did not finish. So that puts him at 150 points over a distant Shady Ahmad, who's more than a win and a half back of Jacob Reed. Nick Bakanos, who almost won last week's race until getting wrecked out by a back marker, is down in 3rd position, only 4 points back of Shady Ahmad. Brendan Lim falls in behind Nick Bakanos by about 27 points, so he's a ways off, and he's only 10 points separated from Krzysztof Olesniak. And then it's tight between himself and Ilka Kodosalo, with Jack Wells a fairly distant 7th, Gabriel Martinez within 8 points of Jack, and then it's 1 point separating Brandon White and Seamus Power for the bottom of the top 10 in the GTPs. But what about the GTOs, Craig?
Well, GTOs, it's all looking very interesting because everyone technically will have a drop week already here. But Van Hicks leads the championship even with a bad result last week. Mickey Friesen should have had the victory. It doesn't hinder him too much. He takes that P2 away from Philip Blake, who's having a fantastic season. Henry Morse as well. What a day he's had today. And what a season he's had despite missing 2 races. Sits there ahead of Noel Lumbo. That's a name you've got to be impressed at beating there. And then you've got those that continue to really surprise us. Consistency is key, and that has been it for Shane Hawkins and Doug Cloud. Andreas Schuster also ties him, and Roman Bello just makes the single split today. We split 56 cars. He just makes the top split today. That's going to be vital for points.
Absolutely. And it is round 8 for these drivers of 12 around here. A 13-week season is behind us. 40 minutes out there for the drivers with open setups. They can set up the car however they like or dislike. No spare vehicle for them with a drive-through at 17 incidents and a disqualification. That is the additional penalty at 25. Qualifying is underway with the drivers taking their first laps around the Roval today. The temperatures have been high all week. It's 113 degrees on track Fahrenheit, 82 in the air, so that's quite a big delta. The sun is high in the sky today at Charlotte.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what else is high in the sky. The strength of field today. It's single split, like I said. We had 56. Remember, the series splits at 55. And we now have a strength of field of just under 5,000. These GTPs have been watching Jacob Reed, who's the number 2 car today. 4,977. The GTOs have a strength of field of 4,810. I know the stats are a little bit out of date. I'll have to go looking because that's very interesting. But if Jacob Reed is the number 2 car, Adam, shall we tell the fans who the number 1 car might be?
I was waiting to see if he would roll out on track to take a qualifying lap, but it is Adrius Valenteus. We can't put him on screen right now, but Valenteus has returned and he is in the GTP today to put a challenge to Jacob Reed's winning streak so far. So Jacob Reed has his work cut out to him to maintain that streak this season as he comes across the line to try and set his first lap. You can see taking all the curb on the final corner, crosses the line, a 105.8 for him, but it looks like that lap did not actually count, so he's gonna have to take his second lap, and he needs to hope that he can take that second lap because we know Adrius Valenteus loves to do the last to first challenge, and he has done it frequently.
Yeah, done it frequently. I think what happened there is you got to remember any tap of the wall is a 0x, and any sort of incident, even if it's a 0x, negates a lap in qualifying. Probably cutting that inside corner as we just saw on Lundberg, through turn 8 as he comes onto the oval banking into NASCAR 1, which is turn 9, and to turn 10 for NASCAR 2, and now hard onto the brakes for the chicane. And this is where it gets really slows down, and then get on the throttle. Don't cut the... Oh, he almost touched the wall. They want to try and cut so much there so they can just use the apron a little bit to get a good run. But Lundberg doesn't need to do that at the moment. He'll be coming across the line. Jacob Reed will be coming across the line. Hard onto brakes. There's AstroTurf there to help you extend the corner. Hit the sausages. Or the turtles, as they say in America. That's good enough for Lundberg. It isn't faster. In fact, it's less than 100th slower than what he just did. And Jacob Reed just makes it on top. And that means this man has to come out to play.
Absolutely, and he waited to see what would happen with the track conditions, and they have improved. Track temperature is dropping rapidly. It's dropped from 113 down to 110 Fahrenheit just in the last minute alone. So Adrius Valenteus knows something that the rest of us don't today, and it seems like that's always the case. Henry Morse coming through the infield and about to go back out onto the oval. This turn so challenging for the Audis to maintain good speed. You need to go all the way out to that wall and then let the car drift back down to the center of the track before you drift back out to the outside to take the optimum line for the chicanes.
Yeah, and also just because of the weight transfer as well is going to be an issue for them. You see on the timing tower, Cal Young, 3,000th of a second behind Noah Lundberg there to get that moving. And was that a little tap there for Morse? I'm not seeing anything here. So he's got a nice, good run. He had a really good afternoon, won the Lotus 49s. Could we be talking about a man who gets 2 out of the 3 this weekend for the Triple Crown? That could be interesting. Hard onto the curve. That's not going to help him as he comes across the line. And not a good time there for his final lap.
Absolutely. Adrius Valenteus hit the wall on the exit of turn 1 for his first lap, so it's going to be his second lap that will matter. So Henry Morse not going to set a time. All eyes are on Pepe Fuentes and Adrius Valenteus. The temperature continues to drop, 109 Fahrenheit, down yet another degree in the last minute. And with this cloud cover, it's really going to improve his times because he's going to have all that grip that the other drivers didn't. So he's already got probably about a 10th advantage just in the weather conditions alone. You can see him cutting that inside. Pepe Fuentes going through the first couple of sectors right now, trying to set his first times of the day.
Well, his first time was good enough for third, 200th behind Jacob Reed. And is that going to be further as Valenteus goes deep into the corner? Valenteus will come across the line right now, and it's an invalid lap for Valenteus. That's a shocker. He parked it. He knows it's an invalid lap. Pepe Fuentes, can he find those 200th of a second that he needs? It's looking pretty clean. Everything rests on this right now. I think Valenteus went a bit too hot into the chicane. And what's he going to do for this chicane? It's the first chicane of the two. And almost touching the wall. Still no C off tracks here for Pepe Fuentes. He's got a minute 20 here. The last of the time qualifies to set a lap. Can he do anything? We're going to have 14 cars out there for each class. 13 set a lap time. In the GTP, Pepe Fuentes more attacking the curve. He's pogoing very hard. Did he miss the turn? It's still faster!
He goes to pole position, jumping over the curb. Pepe Fuentes, what a qualifying lap to pip Jacob Reed at the last moment. My goodness, we rode on board as Pepe Fuentes took the pole position away from Jacob Reed with a gutsy run through the final chicane. What a move that was, and that's going to take us to the grid for the race. Pepe Fuentes, as we mentioned, on pole position. Next to him is Jacob Reed on the first row. Row 2 is Nick Bacanos lining up behind Fuentes, and then Gabby Martinez lining up behind Reed. Francisco Lopez is going to start off at 5th position on row 3 next to Christoph Lesniak, and then row 4 is Ivan Platten and Ilka Kodasalo. The last of the top 10 starters is Brendan Lim with Sean Langdon, and then we've got Jorge Gonzaga is going to start off in 11th with Fabian Jungbluth alongside him in 12th. The last two drivers are Kevin Parrish and Andres Valenteus, who did not set a qualifying time. Last to first activated for Valenteus. That is 14 GTPs out here today. What about the GTOs, Craig?
I'll give you 14 GTOs, and they all set a qualifying time as Noel Lundberg will be pole position by the barest of margins to Cal Young, who's in second, and then Mickey Friesen wants redemption. He'll be in third with Johnny Hagner in fourth. Then it's Philip Lake into 5th position. Who's the number 27 car? That's a surprise. Johan Van Hicks will be 6th. And then Andreas Schuster, 7 for 7. Henry Morse will be 8th. And Jack Davis Pickett was driving like a possessed man earlier today. He'll be 9th, with Doug Cloud rounding out the top 10 in 10th. And then we'll get down to 11th, which is Josh Brain, followed by JD Rodriguez in 12th. Bryce Coulter will take 13th. And car 28th, Roman Bello, just makes it into 14th. To say how this is, Adam, we'll talk about other things. Every driver was probably thinking 55 cars today. It split. Laus Olsen misses top split, and we know the caliber of Laus Olsen. That shows how competitive this split is today.
Absolutely, and Pepe Fuentes taking that pole position also shows how competitive it is, with Jacob Reed having won every race that he's started except for the one that he wrecked out. This is going to be very interesting. Now, if you've never taken a race at the Roval, it starts off here in the pit lane, and the Porsche pace car makes an immediate left 90, so usually the drivers tend to go single file as they head out onto the track here, and it looks like that's going to be the case today. It's 28 cars out here, 14 split across both classes. It's an even split today. Who is that going to benefit, Craig?
Do you know what? I don't actually know. I think who this benefits is everybody. We know how tight and chaotic the Roval can be. And I think people were saying, we don't want a lot of drivers, but every time you see that number hover around 55 when it comes to signups, everyone's like, come on, just hold it. And a last-second sign-up put it to 56, like you would normally get last-second sign-ups for racing. But I think the lower number helps everybody. In theory, a cleaner track means less traffic chaos. That means that these GTOs will be able to stay together. It means that Valenteus will not have a hard time through the traffic. It means it's going to be a very evenly battled race today. And I think, realistically, everybody's a winner today with the fact that it's split.
I will say, though, some of the series regulars have been the ones making the late dives of late, and so it's going to be interesting to see whether or not that holds true in this high strength of field split of the top split here. It's going to be fascinating to watch whether or not we see a lot of those desperate moves that we've been seeing in weeks past. But with the caliber of drivers that we have here, you know that many of these drivers are looking at the strength of field as well, and they're going to feel a lot more confident, and so they might make some moves that maybe they wouldn't with drivers that they're less familiar with. So I'll be interested to see whether that has a knock-on effect and whether the chaos still remains even with only 28 vehicles. We're approaching the mid backstretch chicane here for the Roval. This is a beautiful section, but it's really challenging with those turtle curbs on the inside of both corners.
Well, we saw how Pepe Fuentes almost flew through the turtle curves in the final chicane, so it's going to be interesting. You talk about regulars. There's only really two men that I can see here who isn't really a regular. That Bryce Kelser, second time in the broadcast races this season. And Andres Valenteus, never seen the guy in the top split before. Have you, Adam?
No, this is completely unfamiliar to me, but it's nice to see him here. It's just weird that he didn't take a qualifying lap. Pepe Fuentes is going to lead the field to the green. Now, in iRacing, I still believe, Craig, that they still have to take the chicane at the end of the lap. Is that correct?
Correct, and I wonder if there'll be a gentleman's agreement to go single file. There is not. They're going to take this 2x2.
No, Pepe jumps immediately as soon as the pace car crosses the control line at the entry of the pit lane, and Jacob Reed was caught a little bit unawares, but he stays with him. Nick Bicanos and Gabriel Martinez are going to be top 4 for the GTPs. What about the GTO start?
GTO's a little bit messy at the start, but Lombo gets on by, as does Cal Young, and it looks like Johnny Hagner might have to try and go around the outside of Mickey Friesen, and he does. Everyone stays alive. Johnny Hagner, JD Rodriguez, and Jack David Spickett, the only drivers to make a position up so far after a couple corners in the GTO. Everyone's clean through as expected.
Absolutely. So a clean start to this race. I think Pepe Fuentes realized that he had his best opportunity at jumping Jacob Reed before the chicane. And so that was a good time to do that. And it also kept the race start fairly clean just because of the fact that the drivers didn't really have any opportunities to battle side by side because they got caught out surprised. But Jacob Reed right on the back of Pepe Fuentes for the lead of the race. Running on board with Joram Van Hicks as he's looking at 5th position up ahead of him. That is Phil Blake.
Yeah. And this is when they now just start to set themselves in. Maybe just bunch up the group a little bit here because the top 3 are a little bit farther ahead as everybody else as we go hard into the braking for the chicane. And you can see how close Van Hicks gets. And I think that kind of upset the apple cart a little bit for the car, not the driver. So he loses a bit of time here. Watch out behind him. Andrea Schuster may look for a move, but you have to get up the banking, which slows you down a little bit in these cars. So nothing yet here for Schuster. And it kills it the waiting game, and I don't think we'll be seeing any overtakes so early. Remember, GTOs, they like to keep it patient.
There's really only 3 passing zones on this track. The entry to turn 1, the second corner through the infield, and then the entry to the chicane on the backstretch are the best places to pass around here. You can make that late lunge into the final chicane if you choose to, but it's a real challenge to make that work. You really have to be up alongside on the outside of that corner. I've been noticing Pepe Fuentes has been struggling to hold off Jacob Reed. Jacob, very quick on race pace, and he's clinging right to the back of Fuentes.
He's clinging right to the back. I've got my eyes on Valenteas as well as he tries to make his way up the field. He knows that he has to get through this quickly, otherwise he's going to be losing out. He's already 6 seconds behind the leaders, so he has to try and make a move as Jacob will know where he has to go, and he was a tenth slower this time by. There's Valenteas in the blue and yellow livery, as we know straight away. Costasalo is another person he's called up. 5 positions there for Valenteas, and also Johan Van Hicks has had a moment out there as well, as he's lost some time as well out there. I think he's had a little bit of a moment through the bus stop. This is Henry Morse, a free car fight here, just trying to look to push Schuster, Spickett, and Morse. Schuster's not the sandwich he wants to be.
Our championship leader struggling yet again. Last week, he just got caught out by the last lap chaos going on in the GTO leaders. But this week, just a little bit of a mistake through the backstretch chicane, and that's going to put him back to 10th position. This puts him a good 4.5 seconds, 5 seconds off of our leaders.
I just saw Jack David Spickett, don't know if we caught it on the cameras, tap the wall, coming out of 3. And I wonder if that's just going to be a little bit of an issue. This is Van Hicks. This is the replay moment. He's had a little bit of a problem. Did he catch too much of the curb? Oh, I don't think it's too much of the curb. I think it's just going a bit too deep. And yeah, probably a bit too deep, trying to carry too much room. Thankfully, there's all that runoff there. Able to keep on going, but lost a lot of time there. Did the man who claims he hails from Australia, but unfortunately he doesn't. And rinse and repeat. Once again, Valenteas goes up a position. He is 6.5 seconds behind the leaders, though. Does need to try and just get a move on, but it's so tough to overtake around here.
New choose your own region flag ability in iRacing allows drivers to represent themselves how they feel they are, and Henry Morse, you can see him putting a nice challenge right now on Jack David Spickett. Remember, Henry Morse, very quick in qualifying around here. He had the quickest time of the week so far, I believe, throughout the rest of the week's races. Now jammed in this pack, tucked in behind Andreas Schuster.
Yeah, fastest time of the week in qualifying did belong to Henry Morse, and he didn't really get a good time this time, but I think everybody going a little bit faster, and also the track temp. This is something we've got to talk about, because we saw Valenteas, he managed to pick an opportunity to qualify in colder temps. Well, I can now confirm cold isn't a thing anymore. It's 51 Celsius out there as Valenteas makes another move. It's 123 Fahrenheit. That's the track temp. there is a little bit of wind. It's not going to make a difference. And there you see Jacob Reed. He goes fastest as well. That could be important for the GTP. And the round goes even flatter on, I can report, as you see him go down the list. Henry Morse continues to hold on, but look how good this pack is. Everybody from Young down to Morse are in a little bit of a trade.
Oh, Pepe Fuentes sliding through the infield. He manages to save it. That was an amazing save, but now he's getting passed by Jacob Reed. He's going to have extremely hot tires. Those hot temperatures really starting to affect them a little bit. He's just locked up the rear brakes going into the second corner, through the first corner, actually, of the infield. He was sideways through the entire infield, Craig.
Yeah, and of course, you can go a little bit sideways when you've got that as he's watching. I gotta be careful not to get caught by Mechanos here. But the problem was, then he dipped his tires in the grass a little bit, so that would have put a bit too much cooling down. He tried to turn right into turn 5, and turn 5 to 6 is when you start to go uphill. The moment he starts turning in, he's turning in too late. The car's not got the grip he wants. It's starting to slide right away. Not a lot he can do out there, and that was so unfortunate for him. He just can't get it. Also, Lesniak right behind. Really nice move on to Francisco Lopez as they continue a little battle. As Lopez will come back to it. Pepe Fuentes goes for it, and there is almost contact in the wall. Yes, Valenteus has to check up a little bit. There's Lopez. He's got damage. He understeered out of turn 1 into the side of a Lesniak.
It's worth noting that when you mentioned that Andres Valenteus was 6 seconds behind our leaders, it was Sean Langdon that he was behind, and Sean Langdon currently is 9 seconds behind our leaders. Andres Valenteus is 5.5 seconds behind our leaders as they go past the slow JD Rodriguez, who spun out coming through the second corner. Oh my goodness, that was an opportunistic move from Valenteus. Drivers don't make a pass there, and he just caught Francisco Lopez completely by surprise.
Tell you what, Pepe Fuentes not had the best of time through traffic, got held up a little bit, and that allowed Mechanos to make the move. He got held up through 8 onto the oval. And unfortunately, that just cost him a little bit as Pepe Fuentes now unfortunately had to be a little bit defensive. Gabriel Martinez right behind. I'm going to have to keep an eye out. Is Gabriel going to try and make this into late braking? He won't. But Jacob Reed getting held up. But who gets the better run at the traffic right now? It does feel like Jacob Reed is getting the better run through 2 cars before turn 1. And the rest of the field had to get past those 2 cars. That's going to be very good and very tight there from Mechanos.
Absolutely, and Andres Valenteus going for a pass right now on Christoph Olesniak. He's going to try and take the pick off of Olesniak and gets past Bryce Kaluza, able to do so, riding up bar with Martinez, and up in front you see Jacob Reed. And Reed is having that replay. This is what happened with Fuentes. You could see him sliding through that corner. Jacob Reed backed off, Pepe sliding yet again, and then finally recovers. But at that point, it was too late. He had 2 hot of rear tires, and Jacob Reed swept around the outside.
Well, Jacob Reed's almost through all the traffic here. And again, that's a good thing when it comes to traffic. You can see that they all had to slice and dice here. This is a Lesniak trying to fight Valenteus, and with no offense to Lesniak, I know him very well. Not exactly the battle you're going to win when it's against the alien, as we like to brand, the veteran alien. Not a lot he could do, but they're almost through the traffic after what? A lap and a half on a 1-minute track, on a 70-second track. They have managed to get through the traffic pretty well. But
Craig, that's not what's impressive. I mean, yes, the GTP has been getting through the traffic fairly well. What's impressive is the fact that Andres Valenteus is only a 1.5 seconds behind Gabriel Martinez. They're in the same shot now as this battle that we're seeing for second position between Nick Mechanos and Pepe Fuentes, and Valenteus is still only 4.5 seconds behind the leader. He's gaining on our leader as he's cutting through traffic. Contact between the two of them. Fuentes and Nick Mechanos make contact after the first turn through the center trioval.
Yeah, I think there was actually something different then. I want to look. No, it was contact because Mechanos blew the engine. Smoke came out the rear, and that, unfortunately, not the sign of a new boat. Unfortunately, it's a sign of a new engine needed. And we're keeping our eyes on Henry Morse right now. Still in this little battle, he manages to defend Doug Cloud. I say defend Doug Cloud. He'd had to use traffic to help him defend against Doug Cloud here, and that's not going to help. These back cars have really suffered when it comes to the traffic. But let's just talk about that for a moment, Adam. Mechanos, engine destruction, and that's a championship implication moment.
Absolutely. This means that he's going to get 0 points. Remember, you have to complete 75% of the laps in order to get points while you're out here today, and that means he's done. That's it for him. Him and Ivan Platner are the drivers who have dropped out. Look at this battle in the GTOs, though. This is Jack David Spick and Henry Morse, Andreas Schuster, Doug Cloud, all of them tacked under a bumper. Oh my goodness! Henry Morse with trusting Schuster to back out of it through the corner, able to clip by. That was as tight as it can get.
You want to send that into iRacing highlights, ladies and gentlemen? Go for it. Because Henry Morse had to go around the outside of the bus stop to set that up. He had the inside for the oval, but it turned to the outside for the final chicane. And somehow he was able to overspeed, cut the nose off there, and make that move on Schuster. And what a move that is. Morse, he's trying to catch up to Spickett. Those two had a fantastic duel today in the 49s. I kind of feel he might want to rekindle that because I think Spickett kind of wants to prove that he can beat Morse.
Absolutely. So it's going to be challenging to see these drivers push through. I can report that Valentez is about to go around the outside of Gabriel Martinez if he can get a little bit of an overspeed as well. Here is that pass moment going on. And look at the confidence of Valentez. Just breaks later than anybody. Able to slip right by and move Valentez up into third position. Still, though, 6 seconds behind Jacob Reed. And Joni Hagner's gone around. Joni Hagner with a major incident going into the first part of the chicane on the backstretch.
Not what he wanted. It looks like he just got rear-ended by, it was Gonzaga losing a bit, taking a bit too much speed there through the bus stop. Couldn't slow it down in time, and unfortunately, I do feel that Joni was kind of like, that you see it there, you see the replay of what happened with Michaelis and Fuertes, kind of looked like he was kind of using him as a cushion. It's not on purpose. It was just had nowhere else to go there as Joni Hagner now on to attacking onwards. He is down in 7th. He's lost a lot of time, and this is something I can't believe I'm saying, Adam. The lead battle in GTO is out of slipstream. I can't believe I'm saying that right now.
Oh, just barely in it still. 1.2 seconds. We're going to see what happens to Joni Hagner here. He goes through the corner, and then the 26 of Gonzaga absolutely took it way too deep. He wouldn't have made that corner anyway. He would have been way out there on the outside. So just a late breaking moment there for Gonzaga meant that Joni Hagner went around, and he's now back in 7th position. So Cal Young still in the slipstream, just barely. He's able to cling to it, and he's able to gain on this straightaway as well. So he's brought it back down into 9/10 range, but just a few more tenths. If they get outside 1.5, then yeah, he's going to be out of it.
Right here, Jack David Spickett though, and these are the 3 cars still battling. Well, you got Young just finally in the slipstream there for Lumberg. I say finally, it's tough to get in the slipstream here with how tight the track is and not a lot of open roads. So very good testament to him there. Mickey is going. Mickey, you're indoors. Why are you wearing a hat? I understand if you wore a hat all the time, like you're a Summit 1G, but you don't wear a hat when you're racing. I know I'm going to get ridiculed by him for this, but Adam, do you wear a hat when you're sim racing? I feel like it's an acquired taste.
I don't tend to wear a hat indoors, but also America, so I'm not surprised at all. We have this a lot. So Jack David Spickett is at the back of this train. We're watching Mickey Friesen lead. Philip Lake is the meat in the sandwich right now. Philip been doing a good job gaining back his speed and recovering back up to the heights that we saw seasons ago, where Philip Lake, part of Dirty Torque Racing, was racing with Nick Bacanos, the two of them battling it out with Glacier Racing just quite a few seasons ago. Those were some times that I remember back when I was racing and after I was racing, commentating those races throughout the years. So it's really cool to see Philip Lake and Joni Hagner both on the track again. Seasoned veterans of the GTO class duking it out on track now.
What a season to come back to. We talked about it once. I mean, you could brand as this season the season of the Roval, because we go to Daytona next week, folks, for the hour-long race, and that's going to be interesting. Always a barn burner at Daytona, no matter what the series is for multi-class racing. So that's going to be interesting as Jack David Spickett just having Gonzaga go right through them, put in the middle, and again, just having a trouble trying to adjust to those speeds and miss shift there for Gonzaga. That's going to hold up Jack David Spickett, not what he wants to see. We're on board with Johan Van Hicks as he tries to battle Schuster behind as well. I'll tell you what was interesting. You talked about Mechanos. Mechanos, I can report, it was a shifter issue. He's having hardware issue with some of the new hardware.
New hardware is always a hard thing to adjust to. When drivers are battling for championships with high stakes, such as payouts, it always surprises me when drivers change their gear in the middle of a season. Around IMSA Vintage, it's just bragging rights, and even though it's great, oh my goodness, late on the brakes is Joni Hagner on Henry Moore. Oh my goodness, no, sorry, that was Andreas Schuster, who gets extremely loose, and it looks like Van Hicks going to try and take an opportunity. Remember, Van Hicks is our championship leader in the GTOs. Oh my goodness, contact between Doug Cloud and Andreas Schuster sends Schuster onto the apron. Amazing that he saved it.
I wonder if that was Doug not realizing he had a bit more overspeed. You know, they're going to get overspeed when it comes to, drafting. But I wonder if he didn't realize he had that much overspeed, because that's quite a mistake to make there. And I do feel that shake there from Schuster lost him some time. Here's Valenteus. Yes, Valenteus is on the back of Pepe Fuentes right now, which means the gap between him and Reed is 3.4 seconds. Valenteus took 4/10 out last time by, and now Jacob's going to get a full lap in the traffic. Valenteus is just hitting the traffic, and for all the plaudits we've given Jacob Reed this season for his multi-class etiquette, there's only really one man that's better than that. Sorry, Alex, it's not you. I know you like watching. It's Valenteus, and I think he's going to try and do it again.
Absolutely, but first he has to get past Pepe Fuentes while going through this traffic, because he can't lose too much time. But that being said, they're gaining well on Jacob Reed. Look at this. He's going to try and make a late dive. Pepe Fuentes sees it coming, goes over the sausage curves, and he's going to lose the position.
That wasn't him going for it. He tried to do it, but he spooked Pepe. And Pepe, all he had to do was take the normal line, but Pepe thought that was actually going to happen. So whether or not that was a mistake from Valenteus, and now is Valenteus going to get past Joni? He does, and that's a big gap to make there. Up ahead as well, I think Jack David Spickett's had a moment out there. He's got to slow down. Yes, he missed a chicane as well. He's going to be losing some time. He's lost a position to Henry Morse. Well, I said they were going to have their battle again, and they might too.
Absolutely. Taking a look at Doug Cloud right now as he's getting passed by Gabriel Martinez in fourth position. Gabriel Martinez having a great race out there right now. Currently in that fourth spot with 1.6 seconds of Christoph Lesniak tucked in behind. And when I say tucked in behind, I mean behind Andreas Schuster. That beautifully liveried GTP, the Yamato GTP tucked in behind. We're riding on board now with Joram Van Hicks, who's looking out the back of him towards Doug Cloud and Andreas Schuster. Van Hicks only 9/10 behind Joni Hagner. He wants to stay attached to Hagner as Hagner moves his way up towards the front of the field.
Yeah, he's doing the best, and he's somewhat there as he's trying to catch up to the back of Joni. And I do wonder if he'll just now also just look behind, and Lesniak comes on by. That's fine. Nothing else coming on by, so he can take this corner properly. Doesn't have to worry. And that's a key thing for these GTOs, because remember, once they set a line, they're committed to a line. So if you know you've got that GTP who can make that send, then that's good. And you reiterated earlier today as well, Adam. This is the field where basically everyone knows everyone. It's a top split of two, which does really encourage the more understanding / respectful driving that you get in the series, because everyone knows everyone. There's going to be no weird moments out there, because when we say be predictable, that's what I'm saying is sometimes when you're a lap car, predictability is key. I think that does throw drivers off when it's a single split.
And just remember that as a driver, every other driver has the memory of an elephant. So if you frustrate somebody, you're going to have to make amends, or you're going to be dealing with trouble getting past them in the next race. We're taking a look at Andreas Schuster once again, tucked in behind Doug Cloud. Doug's starting to drop off the back of Van Hicks as Van Hicks chasing Joni Hagner towards the front of the field. I can that Andreas Valenteus last lap took 8/10 out of Jacob Reed and is looking to do about 4/10 this lap as they've both cleared the traffic and are out in clear air now.
Yeah, already, and now I'm really curious to see these times as Reed takes his fastest lap of the race. Oh, it's 3/10 faster than Valenteus, but that gap is now 2 seconds. And let's keep an eye on Van Hick, because really the GTP battles have really spread open. I wouldn't expect it when you've only got 14 cars. You'd expect it to be a little bit tighter. Francisco Lopez into the pit, Gonzaga into the pit. But that has to be damage related for both drivers, because there's no pit stops here today as Van Hicks continues on by trying to battle Joni Hagner. No pit stops today, so I do wonder if that driver's just picking up some damage and needing to repair it.
Oh! Contact between Phil Lake and Henry Morse. Here's Morse after the fact, and there's Lake in the wall. This was, I'm not sure how this happened, but Phil Lake trying to recover and trying to do so safely is going to be able to pull out and get back on track. But you could see a little bit of front right damage there on Phil. Let's see what happened.
Yeah, I think Phil went a little bit wide and Morse saw an opening and probably thought there was an opening there, but Phil takes a wider line into turn 4, caught out Henry, and I think that's just a little bit of a moment there. A little bit of an apology as well over the radio from Henry, not what he wanted to do. I think it was just a miscommunication, people just not expecting what they're doing, and I haven't said it for a while. Stop it, Valenteus. He's gone purple, and the gap is almost a second.
Van Hicks next to Joni Hagner, both of them side by side through the corner, and you could see the traffic jam it caused with the traffic behind. It's so slow to go through that backstretch chicane side by side. Both of them losing about 8/10 to Henry Morse up ahead. So unfortunately for them, losing track time, having that battle, contact with the outside wall for Joni Hagner on exit.
Contact for the wall on Joni Hagner. Is that going to affect him? I don't see any aero damage. And again, aero damage is kind of important here as Francisco Lopez gets the black flag. Yet the aero damage can affect you when you're onto that oval there. The banking, it does affect you a bit there as now. Van Hicks needs to just be prepared. Sean Langton comes around the corner, and these are the corners where the multi-class just gets a little bit dicey for these drivers. More hesitation there from Langton, and it almost opened the door for Van Hicks. It brings Cloud back into it. It brings Schuster back into it. Not what Joni wants to see. He kind of got out of the fire, and he's now back in the frying pan, and I think he wants to go back in the fire right now.
Absolutely. They've now lost another second to Henry Morse up ahead due to Sean going past with just one GTP. Look at this, though. Van Hicks going to try and do it again. Remember what happened last time? It slowed them down a lot. This is their battle. They've decided that this is where they're going to stake their claim. This battle for 7th position between Joni and Van Hicks. This is how far they think they can get today.
Now, the banking does slow you down a little bit because you're going a little bit wider. This is not a car you can late brake, and you can see Joni's just trying to push Van Hicks up the road a little bit. That's slowed him down. They're going to go side by side into the
He's too deep.
chicane. Has he done it? No, he's held on to it, but he's not going to be able to hold on to it. Here comes Doug. Free wide, they'll go down in. They're bumping and running, and is Doug going to get this on the inside? And at the ultimate opportunity, he gets it, and Schuster wants them as well. He'll go through. They're all tapping. They're all drifting. Great hold from Van Hicks, but he may lose that position to Schuster. In fact, Schuster can't even get the position done. Van Hicks holds it. These four know what they got to do.
Absolutely. These four have battled many times over the seasons. And an early break from Joni Hagner sends Schuster into the back of him. A little bit more contact between the two of them. Joni Hagner slow through the next section of the corners as well. Schuster getting pushed back into the likes of Josh Brain and Bryce Calusa. Calusa finally able to catch up to the back of these guys and now part of this fight.
Wow, I'll tell you what, you always talk about how one driver is going to catch the advantage, and I think Doug was the ultimate opportunist there. He had the money in the bank waiting to go, and I think he did make bank there. Great move from Doug. And now, on a track this small, we always like to talk about how his defensive skills are good. I feel this might be the track where Doug's defensive skills are really going to frustrate the likes of Van Hicks and Hagner.
Absolutely. I agree. I think that's going to be a defining factor of the last half of this race. 17 minutes and 30 seconds to go on the clock for these drivers. Still a long way to go, but I will report Valenteus is slowing. His last lap was a 108 rather, so the traffic not playing well for him this time. But now it's Jacob Reed into the thick of this Audi battle.
There he is. You know it's Jacob Reed because he's got that green and yellow. He gets past one, going to get past two. Will he get past Schuster before they hit into turn 5? He does. And what's that going to do for the likes of Valenteus? Well, Valenteus is right on the back of him. Where on earth has Valenteus just come from? Because he's just managed to take a second away. He's going to lose a bit of time. And Jacob Reed is stuck behind two of these three cars. And Valenteus had a clear run. What on earth is going on? You see, there's Jacob Reed on the outside, in the internal camera for Valenteus, and they're going to get past all the traffic. That's not what Jacob Reed wanted to see.
No, Jacob Reed just lost a full second, a second and a half. Oh, a slide sideways for Valenteus on exit, and there goes the second that he gained on Jacob Reed. He's going to have to make it all back up on track. 16 minutes, 30 seconds to go as we look back at the battle for the GTOs. 6th position, Doug Cloud leads over Van Hicks and Joni Hagner as they both run in trail of each other. You can see Hagner trying to set up Van Hicks right now for the battle. Doug Cloud holding them back.
Yeah, and now, how do you know tap? Van Hicks goes around, holds it straight, gonna tap the wall a little bit. Don't give him equal flight. Don't break the suspension there. Gonna have to rejoin safely. He will. That was a little tap on the rear there. and that's just a slayer's attack, just sent him going. We talked about the championship implications for Mechanos. Well, those are the championship implications for Johan van Hicks right now. Not what he wants to see, because he already had one drop round. This might be his second drop round of the season, and furthermore, Mickey Friesen is currently third. He might get the championship lead.
Yeah, so unfortunately for Van Hicks, you could see that moment there. He just got tucked into the back of Doug and just ran into the back of him and put himself into the wall to anchor himself down while he started recovering. So as they run, Mickey Friesen up in third position would get 20 points. Johan van Hicks down in 11th would get 10. That would be a 10-point swing that would take it back to 7 points, separating the two of them if they finished as they are today.
And not only that, remember though, but that would be 10 points. It would be Van Hicks' worst performance of the season. For Mickey Friesen, just another day in the office for him. So that will be implications when it comes to drop weeks at the end of the season. Really nice move from Brain, just really having a little bit of mind games here for Schuster, but Schuster says, I'm used to that. You're going to have to try something different. And I see Morse now attacking Jack David Spickett. I think Spickett managed to get past Morse at one point, so they're going to rekindle their battle. And I also see the Valenteas almost had the lead on the timing tower. Not today, as Morse keeps on by. Interesting though, Adam, Valenteas had broken this week's fastest lap by 2/10. So the fastest lap of the week is definitely belonging to Valenteas.
Absolutely. We keep watching this battle between Henry Morse and Jack David Spickett. The two of them rekindling that battle from earlier. Jack David Spickett 4.5 seconds behind Mickey Friesen for third position. So this is something that he's going to want to defend. So Henry Morse looking to the inside. Jack David Spickett saying, yeah, I don't think so this time. They both go clambering over the turtle curbs, getting so close to that exit barrier. It's definitely appreciated, the reprofiling of that exit barrier, because the incidents that we saw both in the sim and real life prior to that reprofiling were terrifying, to say the least.
Yeah, I know you can still go flying on the sim at this track, but not through the bus stop anymore. And drivers are kind of happy they can't do that. Just see the lines, the different lines they have to take here, because they're trying to break that dirty air, also set themselves up. The elevation changes, change the way you camber, and this is now what Morse needs to do. He needs to just keep it rolling, wait for the opportunity. He tried last lap to outbrake Jack into the bus stop. You can't outbrake somebody in this car. You're going to have to be a little bit more creative, I feel. Maybe just look for an opportunity. Maybe right now you've got a Lesniak right behind them. Maybe use a Lesniak at the pick move. But no, he's actually going to try and be brave. I thought for a moment he was going to try and do it there into turn 8, Adam. Think second about it, but maybe now try and punch a hole. Nah, he's trying the best he can. Phil Lake has taken a toe.
Oh, Phil Lake taking a toe. That's heartbreaking. He was in such a good contention position earlier on, but unfortunately taking a toe back to the pits. Josh Brain and Bryce Calusa have been battling, and Bryce Calusa able to get past Brain on through turns 1 and 2. So an interesting place to pass. So Brain possibly making a mistake there as we continue to ride on board with Henry Morse. Let's see what happened here to Phil Lake. Oh, contact with the outside wall on turn 2.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, did he ricochet back onto the track and collect somebody else? I think he got away with it. He did. That's so unfortunate. That would have given him a lot of suspension damage there. Not a lot he can do. Henry Morse continues to try and find a way, and he gets it by. And Henry Morse does indeed finally get past Jack David Spickett, and that was a move straight there, set up thanks to lap traffic, and sets it through into turn 1 to get it on by. You saw Jacob Reed go fasted 12 minutes ago. Valente is trying to close the gap, but when a man goes a 106.1, very tough to do anything. And now Morse has to play getaway, and this is not Jerez like it was earlier today. There's not a lot of wide places to try and defend. He's just going to have to hope the straights are good enough for him.
Now we know that the points gap in the GTPs is wide enough that it's not going to matter whether or not Jacob Reed wins or not. Where the story is for Jacob Reed is the fact that he has won every single race that he has finished this season. So for him to lose to Valente will be breaking that streak. We're keeping our eyes on that as the gap continues to fluctuate between 1.5 to 1.2 seconds. Reed currently having, he has Valente's number and continues to hold him off. Bryce Calusa going deep through the corner. You could see how deep he took it, how unstable the car got on exit.
And I don't think that Bryce is able to make a move right now. I wonder if the tires, it's 53 Celsius, 127 Fahrenheit out there for the fourth week in a row. It's a hot one out there. Jacob Reed, he can see Valenteus in the rearview mirror, and Valenteus has traded some paint there, and that looks like it's just light wall scrapes. That's not going to affect his aero right now, so he's not going to be worrying about that. But you can see, I don't know if he's really attacking the turtles at this point in the race. Do you want to? But the key thing here right now, Jacob Reed's in the wall!
Jacob Reed's front clip is gone! This is going to end the streak! It doesn't matter whether or not Valenteus wins it. Jacob Reed has made a mistake, and he has lost the race!
Watch this back, watch this back. It was just a little hesitation.
Oh.
And I think, yeah, it was on the brakes. That's not a problem there. That was Roman Bello. Not a lot he could do. Roman Bello was following his normal line, and there was not anywhere for Jacob to go. He caught him at the worst opportunity, and I think just a tap with the brakes just upset the car going over the hump there. And Valenteus just having a little bit of a moment there in the chat. He knows what's happened. He's seen the damage, and I think that he feels a little bit upset because that's a battle we've all wanted to see.
He was on the throttle, actually. He was blending back onto the throttle, and the rear end going over a bump just unsettled the car and snapped it. It snapped the wheel right. I think he was trying to correct a little bit of a slide and ended up spinning right. It also might have been, I'm taking a look at his onboard, it might have been a mechanical.
Oh, I would hope it's not a mechanical. That would be the last thing we need to see there. If it's a mechanical, that is, well, that never. Let's watch it here on the onboard. We'll just see if the camera just triggers.
Wait for it. Wait for it. It's while he's scraping the wall here. You can see the wheel go completely straight, and then right here it recovers. I think it's a mechanical.
I wonder if he's had. I wonder if that's also a case of a stutter. You know, a stutter from the PC. Like we can throw possibilities out there throughout the race. You know, it's just one of those things. I think as well, Valenteus slowed down on that lap, thinking, has something happened to Jacob? I don't want to retake this lead. Can I slow down to let him by and like get this fight going again? But no, that definitely was damage, and I think that's what Valenteus was doing, going on by. So that means we've only got 8 drivers in GTP on the lead lap. The GTO battles are still going as Josh Brain continues to look for a way around Schuster. Going to be tough to do late braking here at the final chicane, and he cannot do it. And I do love how there's that little bit of AstroTurf there just for the drivers to just go a little bit wider to open up the corner for that final chicane.
Absolutely. So, stories reform themselves after that incident from Jacob Reed. It's going to be an interesting thing to see what the conversation's like over the next week before next race. As I can report that Francisco Lopez has finally retaken Noel Lundberg at the lead of the GTO field. Francisco Lopez 10th position in the GTPs, so he's now recovered from his pit stop, his 3-minute long damage repair pit stop, and is back ahead of the GTO leaders. We continue to watch this battle between Josh Brain and Andreas Schuster that's split by Pepe Fuentes, who's a distant second position. Oh, Josh Brain into the outside wall. He's trying to cover off Calusa. He tries not to cover him all the way down to the apron. I've seen that before. I have run the apron around this track in the GTO. It's not a fun experience, but Calusa a little bit early on the brakes because he's on the inside line, but he's going to take it well through the corner, and Josh Brain looks like a little bit of a misshift. He's going to fall back with Calusa now.
Gabriel Martinez also just came on by, and I wonder if that was the case as well for him. I am just seeing elsewhere some of the drivers who have retired. We've had the virtual pit crew, pit broadcasters go in down there. Philip Lake's a little bit upset right now. He feels the championship is done. And for a man, let's just highlight that for a moment, Adam, while we're watching Lundberg go by. He's got a 1.5 second lead to Young. A man that just come back to the seat schedule, to the series this season. For Philip Lake to feel that upset, it says a lot that the fight is still there from the veteran, because, yeah, a championship is very good. It's bragging right, but also it just validifies your pace out there. So that's got to hurt for Philip Lake today.
Yeah, and the championship may be done for him. He has an opportunity for another drop week, but I believe he's already got 2 weeks that he was hoping to drop so far. So that pulls him out of the fight for the lead of the championship. Honestly, for second position as well, because Mickey Friesen up at that 3rd position. Jorn Van Hicks has not been able to recover any more positions. He's still down there in 11th, so it looks like that 10-point swing is likely to hold today. So if you're wondering when the second round of drop weeks comes into play, it is after round 11. So going into the final round is when we will have the final picture of what the points are going to look like for the championship. And we can do the math from there. Fabian Jungbluth tucked in now behind Ilka Kodasalo, trying to catch up and get past him for a 6th position. Audrey Valenteus continues to set fast laps, but not nearly as fast as what he was running behind Jacob Reed. He realizes that he just needs to maintain pace right now. Pepe Fuentes, 108.2 last lap to Audrey Valenteus' 107.6.
Yeah, and I do wonder as well, technically, you know, if this isn't the formula, the classic formula, so you don't get a point for the fastest lap. But to just give an idea of how fast, watching Jungbluth go on, Valenteus' fastest lap was a 106.171. Jacob Reed with a 106.136. So it was so close between the two of them going to fastest lap, and Valenteus won't be going for that right now, but Jungbluth is continuing to look for opportunities. And usually you say at the end of the race there's not a lot of cars out there, so you can't use the traffic. Well, we've only had 2 retirees in GTO. So the field is technically still the same number. That is still a little bit spread out right now. But Costasalo having a real bad time there, and I think he's gone a bit too wide. That may force it 3 wide. He can't, unfortunately, as he holds on. But yeah, this could be a problem for Costasalo, as Jungbluth's got a really good run here.
Jungbluth going for the over-under here. He's going to break a little early and fall in behind Kodasalo, trying to look for a good exit. Kodasalo a little wide. This is going to open up a straight line shot for Jungbluth to gain a little bit more time. But now he's got to go around the entire outside of the circuit in order to try and get past Kodasalo into this hairpin. He's going to look to the outside, but break early once again, trying to set up for this chicane to get a good exit. Kodasalo takes a decent run through the corner. No opportunity this time by.
I was talking about we only had 2 retirees in the GTOs. We've had a third. Jack David Spickett has towed the car. Not entirely sure what happened there. I don't know if it was a blown engine or something. Came to the final chicane. Lots of locking up there. Lots of smoke. Got to turn 1. Could not do anything and towed. I wonder if that's another hardware issue today for a GTO, for a driver here as Fabian still looking for opportunities. 2.5 seconds up the road is Jan van Hicks, who's not having the race he wants to have. He's trying to catch up to Josh Brain. But hopefully just not right now, because Costasalo doesn't want the traffic. But Kevin Parrish is almost behind them now.
Yeah, Jack David Spickett looks like a retiree by choice, based upon what I was able to go back and see. So that's a little interesting. As you can see, Kodasalo tucked in behind
Cal Young's in the wall. Cal Young's in the wall heavily, and he's lost out here to Ljungberg. I don't think it's a lot of damage, but that is actually, yeah, there's actually quite a lot of damage. He's lost half the bumper here. And that's significant damage.
Yeah, this was a pretty big hit to the right rear that then ricocheted onto the front rear in that GSRC liveried machine. There you can see it. That's a pretty significant impact. If that right rear doesn't have a little bit of drive damage, I'm not sure how he's managing out there, but currently 1.3 seconds behind Noel Lundberg. Lundberg has had the tail of the tape over the course of this race, but look at this side-by-side between Jungbluth and Kodasalo as they're tucked in behind Kaluza and Schuster.
Trying to look for a move. Where do you look for a move right now? Lundberg does get past well, he wanted to try and catch up. Kodasalo's lost a lot of time here due to the traffic, and now it's going to be Parrish battling Jungbluth for P6. And now, who gets the better of the traffic out here? It feels like it's Fabian. They'll come past Doug Cloud and Joni Hagner. They're still in a little bit of a battle right now, and that's going to be very interesting. But I don't feel these are going to hold the drivers up. In fact, yeah, they have to just wait behind Joni Hagner. Doug Cloud won't be happy about that, but look at the weaving here of the car. One car goes off. That is Francisco Lopez. He's 3 laps down, though. It's not going to make any difference to this fight. He's keeping it clean. Not a lot of places to go. And Josh Brain, another car who's had issues late in this race.
Absolutely so. Kevin Parrish right in behind Jungbluth. Jungbluth thought that if he was able to get past Kodasalo, he'd be home free, but because of the traffic, now he's got Kevin Parrish lining up underneath his rear wing, so he can't breathe too much. Here's what happened to Josh.
Josh, I think, took a little bit too much there. He lost the rear. The rear was going, trying to hold it. He tapped the wall. And as he tapped that wall that we were talking about during qualifying, he then resets it and goes in again, damages the clip to the car. And that's going to be all she wrote as Kevin continues on. With 1.5 minutes left to go, I think that battle between Lundberg and Young is done. I wonder if that moment there with the lap with the GTP and forcing Young into the wall has actually stopped that battle, because he is getting a little bit slower. This is the only battle really on the track apart from Schuster versus Kaluza.
You know, the drivers before this race began this week were talking about how they were worried that the multi-class traffic would be claiming the most drivers, but it's actually been the track so far that's claimed the most drivers out there today, and I'm sure the high temperatures contributed to it. I can report, though, the 83-degree Fahrenheit ambient temperature. I live in North Carolina. That's what it is right now, and I'm only a couple hours away from Charlotte, so fairly accurate as far as the exterior temperature is concerned. So these drivers racing real-world conditions at the moment.
I gotta be honest, I've only ever been to Charlotte once, and that was a change flight to get back to London Heathrow. And because of a delay, I only spent a total of an hour of 40 minutes in Charlotte. So an hour really in Charlotte. So no idea what it's like. Lovely airport. Would have loved to have visited this place because it's fantastic as Valenteus takes the white flag. And it's a last to first. We have to mention that, Adam. It is a last to first. Yes, there's only 14 cars. But realistically, how many of these cars met their own fate today? And Valenteus has just kept it clean. But I'll tell you one thing, Valenteus' traffic management, it is a joy to see once again.
Two of the drivers who had DNFs today due to incidents with the track. Jacob Reed, Nick McConos. What positions did they start in? They started in third and fourth. Or second and fourth, I should say. Andres Valenteus going through the backstretch chicane for the final time. Taking it very cleanly, very conservatively, as Kevin Parrish and Fabian with that battle is going to start its final lap. Bryce Kaluza and Andreas Schuster are just behind Valenteus, so we'll see them finish shortly. But here comes Valenteus through the final chicane, a commanding last to first challenge, and he was there to try and duke it out with Jacob Reed to start the race. But Valenteus taking an early celebration here as we watch Pepe Fuentes come through just behind that battle between Kaluza and Schuster. And there's Gabby Martinez in a distant third. Kevin Parrish and Fabian Jungluth just exiting the final sector of the infield onto the banking for the final time. Let's see whether or not Kevin Parrish has anything for Jungluth.
Well, Carl Young won't have anything for Noah Lundberg unless these two catch him, because Noah Lundberg's right ahead of him as they come on by. The mistake from Parrish going into the braking. That is going to hold up Carl Young a little bit. So that battle for the GTO victory is all done and dusted. And that's also going to be Fabian Jungluth will keep that P6. But this is Noah Lundberg, and he drove a faultless race today. He'll take the victory in the GTOs, and a great victory for him. Championship wide open again. Cal Young, 2 seconds behind, will take that P2. That hit against the wall. He was on fire there. Maybe that cost him. It'd be interested to talk afterwards. And Mickey Friesen, we look at the maths, and it feels like he's got the championship back in his hands. It's a P3, but it's all important, 20 points.
Jorn Van Hicks will cross the line, has crossed the line recently, and he actually was able to make it up to 9th position because of the issues with Jack David Spickett and Philip Blake. So the gap will not close as much as we expected, but it's still falling back into Friesen's hands, especially if Van Hicks's turn of issues continues to happen. So a very interesting race out here, full of complexity and battling, but a lot of drivers wrestling with the track today.
And also, if you're Doug Cloud, just deciding to celebrate by taking the jump, almost taking out some of the drivers that we just were watching, but that will be all she wrote. What a race, though. I mean, usually we don't talk about a smaller field being an entertaining race or a challenging race. This really was a battle between man and the Wolves today, and it feels like for half the field, the Wolves won.
But for one driver, that was not the case. Andres Valenteus maintaining 6-second gap to the leaders from the second lap all the way until Jacob Reed wrecked out. So he takes the win today after rejoining the series after taking most of the season off. Pepe Fuentes, after taking pole position, just did not have the race pace to compete with Reed and Valenteus, comes home in the second position. Gabri Martinez, a very good race for Gabri today, coming home in a solid third position, with Christoph Olesniak in a distant fourth and Brendan Lim in even more distant fifth. Fabian Jungluth was close to Brendan Lim by the end of the race, and Kevin Parrish right up the back of Jungluth, but unfortunately just couldn't get there by the time we crossed the stripe. Ilka Kodasalo was also part of that battle, but got caught out by traffic towards the end of the race and lost that sixth position to Jungluth, and then lost seventh to Parrish. Francisco Lopez, our first driver not on the lead lap, is 3 laps down, with Jorge Gonzaga 4 laps down. And then we get to our drivers who had problems. Sean Langdon is down there in 11th position with Jacob Reed. He's the big story today. Hit a bump the wrong way and hit the outside wall. So that was what he reported to us in our chat. Nick Makanos having troubles early, and then Yvonne Platten having troubles on the opening lap.
We get to the GTOs. Remember, the GTOs top three did an extra lap, so you won't see the proper gap, but Noel Lundberg holds off a late charge from Cao Young, who hit the wall late in the race, and that was all she wrote. But Mickey Friesen with a lot further back there as he finishes home in third. Then Henry Morse makes up 4 positions. He doesn't get on the podium, but the P4 is very respectable. Yoni Hagner, what a recovery there, to 5th. Doug Cloud will make up 4 into 6th position. Andreas Schuster, 7 for 7, finished 7 for 7. Bryce Calusa makes up 5 into 8th, and then Johan Van Hicks, after that spin, unfortunately finishes in 9th. With Josh Brain rounding out your top 10. And then Roman Bellows, the last car, still battling. He finished in 11th, followed by Jack Davis Pickett, who had to retire due to some damage from a wall hit early in the race. Philip Lake, we saw what happened there. He caught a tank slapper and hit the wall as well. JD Rodriguez, he got spun around and hit some damage. He will finish 14th, the last car in the field.
It's a very dramatic race today, Craig. Lots of interesting stories and lots of drivers wrestling with the high temperatures and the close walls out there today. But the real story is Jorn Van Hicks, 9th position, Mickey Friesen in 3rd. That's going to close in the championship fight for the lead of the GTOs today.
It's going to close that battle, and I tell you what, you also look at it, you want to talk about how the battle, in theory, should have got closer for the GTPs. It hasn't. Shadi Ahmad was not here today. I think he might have been in second split. Makanos caught some damage. Jacob Reed, unfortunately, caught some damage. The only person that benefits from this is not even here himself, because some of the top names were not here today, and I wonder what that does when we come to next week. It's the hour-long race, though, Adam. It's Daytona, baby.
Absolutely. The next race being Daytona. That's August 16th at 1 p.m. Eastern time. You don't want to miss that one either. But for us, that's going to do it for us today. We'll see you here next week, as we just mentioned, at Daytona. But I want to give a thanks to IMSA Vintage for bringing us on for another season. And I want to thank the team this week, Craig, Christiane, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media website and merchandise store as well. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next show for us, well, not for us particularly, but for GSRC, is the Classic Lotus Grand Prix. That's at the Nordschleife. That is tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You don't want to miss the other races that are here on your screen as well. We hope you've enjoyed joining us today as much as we've enjoyed bringing this racing to you. And we hope to see you back again soon. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.